Hey guys, Mike here. So, got SPY to set a new all-time high yesterday. Qs did not quite follow. I really thought they were going to push it up in the last 15 minutes because it was only like 0.1% away, but they did not. Need a little drama for Tuesday because remember we're closed on Monday, okay? So the video to set up the week will be out on Monday, okay? I'm actually going to take Sunday off. Whew, it's been a long time since I've done that. So that's going to be nice. So I hope you enjoy your weekend. See if you got a 3-day weekend as well. Obviously, we're going to talk about your questions, and one's going to be on Intel. I got a question about that. I promise you, the chart I give will absolutely be unbiased. My opinion on the company will absolutely not be unbiased because it falls, and I rarely use the word hate, but it falls in one of those 3 things I hate most in this country. Hate most about my country. Just be honest about it. And some of you might agree with me on this, believe it or not. I'd be surprised what those 3 things are. But it falls right in that category. But I'll talk about it. Somebody was talking about what the headwinds are for the stock market, and they don't see any. Well, I see some, so we'll go over those as well. And then a few other questions you guys got. But I did want to start off with this because it keeps going up, and I just want to put this out there because I did a members video kind of showing them because everybody's like, man, the market's ignoring inflation and blah blah blah, this fun stuff. And I had to do a members video basically telling them the reason why they don't care about inflation, because if you look who inflation's hurting, it's people that mostly don't have a lot of money in the stock market, right? And then the people, of course, that do have the money in the stock market, you may be feeling it, but it's not crushing you. All right, and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about in a second. But you just look at this right here, and inflation helps these folks, right? I mean, look at this crazy stuff. Like top 1% now make up 31% of the wealth in this country. So top 1%, that's not a lot of people, by the way, make up about 1/3. This goes all the way back to 1989. And, of course, it keeps going up. But you can see the Mount Rushmore right there. And when you look over here, what's even funnier is the top 0.1% of Americans, which is hardly anybody, by the way. And you can see they make up almost 14% of the wealth, the 0.1%, okay, 0.1% there. And when you come over here, you think yourself, well, how many people in 0.1%? I couldn't even find something past 2016 on this. I'm assuming it's probably what? 34,000 people, 35, maybe 36,000. It's not a lot. I'm not out of 335 million. I mean, it's not a lot. But yeah, to have that small a number, and it keeps getting wider and wider when you look at the bottom 50%, of course, and this has something to do with the inflation number and everything. But when you look at it here, you can see this, and obviously what's going up, right? Bottom 50%, next 40%, next 9%, top 1%, and clearly you are seeing the bottom 50% getting absolutely squished. You can see even right there, the next 40% is not really going up. But you see the top 1%, how it's going up? It always pretty much goes up, as you can see. But the bottom, we got to scroll right down here. Look at the bottom 50 since 1990. Look how it went down after the 08, almost to nothing. And then it came back up. So now it's at levels that were back in 1990. So you wonder why you got a lot of angry people out in the Midwest and other states. That would be why, okay, because they're feeling it. And you look at this. This is not a coincidence. I couldn't find a chart. I wanted to find a chart on this. This goes to 2012, but it's much worse than this. Is the fact of the congressional wealth, right? This started in 07 after the 08 crash. You know dang well this is much higher because over half of Congress are millionaires at this point in time. And when you look at it, why does that matter? How are they millionaires? Because what happens here? Just 150 billionaire families alone spent $1.4 billion in the 2024 election. One of those being obviously Elon Musk and all these others. Remember, they came and kissed the ring. Google and Amazon, their CEOs, the companies, send them money because that's how you get stuff done, right? And it's not a coincidence. You ever wonder why you don't see vets anymore in Congress? Just look at this chart right here. As that chart has gone up, this chart has gone down. Why? Because people know when you're in the military, unless you're a general or something, you ain't making a whole bunch of money. And so that's why you see that number. It will continue to go down, to be honest with you. And so I had to throw that chart in about the vets because you just don't really see it anymore. Why? Because vets don't have money, right? And not going to raise it. They can try. We used to have, and you can see, look at the high percentage in 70 through like 80. I mean, you're talking about, what is that, 75%? And we're down to 17%, right? Because it ain't nothing but lawyers up there, businessmen going up there, billionaires, rich folks, because they got a lot of money, and they can buy it. That's the way it works. I'll never forget, there was a vet. We were in the Iraq War and Afghanistan War. It's probably like 2006. And this is when they still used to vote themselves pay raises in Congress. And he stood up and said, we ought to be ashamed of ourselves for even having this discussion. We were in 2 wars right now. And he got booed off the floor, had to sit down. The party he was with pulled his funding, and he never got reelected. That's how bad Congress has got. Okay. Also, why a lot of vets don't run, to be honest with you, because I'm not saying vets got to be the most honorable, but most of them you meet, they're proud of their country. They try to put, you always taught to put country first, all that stuff. And that is not what Congress is all about. It's the total opposite. And so you'll see, you ask a lot of vets, why don't they run? They're like, I'm not going in that cesspool. No way. And if you don't go along with what they want to go along with, you can forget about it. So, yeah, I mean, but yeah, that wealth gap continues to grow. And the reason why the market's like, whatever, keep crushing the bottom 50%. We don't care about that half the country, right? Because they don't really invest anything. The bottom 50% of, so remember, got about 450 billion in stocks. The top 1% by themselves have 23 trillion, folks. The top 1%. So you can imagine the top, I guess the other half of the country, 50%, what is it, 30, 40 trillion? So, I mean, think about that. Think about that. So anyway, now, first question here from Dr. Marcus. Always appreciate your questions there. What do you think is the biggest headwind / hurdle the market needs to overcome this year? Market is always looking forward. Seems like tariffs, executive orders, inflation, war, Elon, employment, lack of rate cuts have all been priced in to a certain extent. Besides a massive jump in inflation or massive jump in unemployment, I can't really think of any major headwinds. I can think of a few for you, and here's the headwinds. Here's what's going to cause, after time here, unemployment to jump, things like that. One, this 10-year cannot stay up here. It just can't. And the Trump administration is trying to find ways to push it down, to get it down. Why? Because all the lending rates are on this. I showed you guys a chart, another video, about how much small companies are paying, like between like 9 and 10% for their short-term loans. That's unsustainable. Okay, that's way higher than what it was pre-COVID, okay, or pre-pandemic. All right, Fed funds rate can't stay up here. Can't do it. Just look back over here. And remember, we don't have to have a recession to crash the market. Didn't have one in 2018, didn't have one in 2022, so they don't need that. But right now, yes, if these rates continue to stay up there for much longer, all year long, we don't get no rate cuts, and the 10-year does, for whatever reason, stay up here, God forbid, go higher, that is a huge headwind. It will cause all kinds of problems, and the market will take a moment to say, you know what, we got to reprice this baby. We got to throw a tantrum, okay? What else? You're talking about the balance sheet, right? If they start rolling off this balance sheet, and continue to roll it off, which they seem to be pretty, intent on doing, that's not a good thing. All right. So just kind of keep those in mind. And the other thing, like I told you, we're in a freaking experiment. And you got an administration who said, we're going to cut the budget deficit. Cool. I've been saying for years, yeah, we need to cut the budget deficit. It's ridiculous. But it's an experiment. We've never done it. I mean, how many years has it been? When can you remember? We had a surplus in 99, right? We ain't run a balanced budget since then. And so here we are trying to even cut. So let's say they cut 500 billion out of 2 trillion on there. Let's say they do that. How's the market going to react? I have no clue. I really don't. And neither do you. You can guess it, but that's not true. So if you're talking about, remember, market's all based on liquidity. So if you're talking about a 10-year staying above, let's say 4.5, and the Fed funds rate staying 4.25 until, let's say, maybe September, October, and then you're talking about the balance sheet continuing to run off, and then you're talking about actually cutting the budget this year. If that happens, they're cutting the budget deficit, excuse me. And they even talked about, decreasing defense spending. I was like, oh, man, imagine that. That defense budget is going up every year since I've been alive. So I'm like, wow. How is the market going to react? We don't know because we've never seen it before. And honestly, not all that at once. So that's what you got to figure out. Now, if they can get the 10-year down, 10-year starts to drop, dollar starts to drop, and all of a sudden they start doing, maybe a 25 basis cut, rate cut here, whatever, slowly doing that. Maybe they decrease the roll off in the balance sheet, because you have a market that's been dependent since the 08 crash on liquidity. I've showed you a gazillion charts showing that. And so now we get to see what is the market going to be going off of. That's the key. So there's definitely headwinds there, that's for sure. All right. But we just got to see how the market's going to go. Just now, here from one of our members, Mark says, hey, Mike, could you look over in INTC, which is Intel? I have a contract with 4% on it. I'd assume since it's so beat down, it could get some love finally. Plus, people are speculating it will get more government subsidies and maybe some contracts. And when you look at the chart, obviously this right here is a terribly ran company. Look at this thing. Everybody been doing good, and Intel just like, whatever, we're hot garbage. Okay, they're so badly ran. I even looked, that I don't even think they hired a new CEO. Like the other CEO got pushed out. He went into retirement, quote unquote, to get his golden package. And I think when I looked at it, they still have people they're looking at trying to get a permanent CEO in there, right? But it's had a big move up. But again, you don't have to sit there and be a well-run company for your stock to have huge moves. It's had huge moves before, okay? But here's the thing. Let me get into this right here. This thing is so badly ran that today, or yesterday, excuse me, the Trump administration came out and asked Taiwan Semiconductors to run the factories of Intel. How insane is that? And Intel is so badly ran that they didn't have a quote back. They kept their mouth shut. Why did they keep their mouth shut? Because they need that CHIPS Act money. They need it. But the Trump administration knows they're so horribly ran, they're asking their competitor to come in and run their factories. And they need that $7.86 billion, baby. Give it to me, right? They have to have that. And why? Because here you got AMD and ARM, right? They're growing market share, and Intel, no. They're just stagnant. I mean, you can see, according to the data from Mercury Research, total NPU shipments increased by 10.8% comparably sequentially as notebooks and servers are enjoying strong demand. Strong orders boost AMD's unit share. And then you got ARM, theirs went up. And then, however, Intel registered a 1.4% point dip. Okay, they still got a big market share, but theirs is dipping. And before I get to the chart, because you can clearly going to see where the support and resistance are on this, again, they fall into one of those categories that I can't stand about my country, right? We are in a country to where I cannot stand lazy people, and we got a lot of lazy people out there, all right? Want to live off the government, all that stuff, don't want to work. Then we got number two, which I hate, is people act like they're victims when they're not. I was born into a poor family. Me too. Get out there and work. Get a job. Join the military. Go do something, all right? There's no reason you can't get a college education in this day and age. You just got to go in the military or something like that and get you a GI Bill. Got to do something. Got to sacrifice. Got to work a little hard. Okay? And there's that third category, and this is Intel. I hate with a passion anybody or any company that falls under the category of the saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The one that complains the most, that does the least, and all that stuff, gets rewarded, especially with taxpayer dollars. That bothers me so bad. You cannot possibly tell me that there is not 2 to 3, even 4 companies that are on maybe much smaller than Intel that you couldn't split that money amongst, that are well ran, doing what they're supposed to do, all right? And they couldn't take that money and actually produce whatever Intel is supposed to have to produce, seriously, and grow and hopefully replace Intel. I'd rather replace Intel with well-ran companies and grow those companies, multiple companies up, not just waste the money by giving it to this company. Like, come on, man. That's what this is. But in America, I'm telling you, I see it too many times. You've had to see it. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, baby. If you're not raising your hand and complaining and begging for help, your hard work will not get looked upon. You ran your great company, you ain't getting no rewards. Nope. Your tax dollars will go to help out this other company who now is, I mean, imagine, is there more of a bigger insult, by the way, for a company? Imagine you own a company. Can you imagine asking your competitor to run your factories? Is there a bigger insult than that? I don't think there is there? But again, that's just me. That's just a rant I got to go on. It just disgusts me to see that repeatedly over and over and just wasted tax dollars, man. Wasted tax dollars. Now, looking at the chart, again, bring up your volume range, volume profile, you can clearly see right there, 2607, probably going to be resistance. It can move up to 3059, right there. You can see it, right? You can see a big move up. It moved down, came back down, found some support, okay? So you can see where it can go to and then bounce off of. And then you move in averages. You can see where it's getting rejected today. Getting rejected to 200. Got to get above that. And so that's what caused that pullback today a little bit. But again, it's been a big move up after this explosion out of the pattern it was in. Again, if it comes back down, you're looking at 2092 for support. Again, right above the 100 right there, you're going to see a support. And so it already just came down and bounced off what was, partially support right there already, and starting to see a bounce right there. So, I mean, you can see it. Just pull up your volume range, volume profile, and you'll be able to see this easily. So once it gets above the 200, again, I show you the area, it can go. And if it gets more news, right, and especially if it gets more money and actually does those funds don't get delayed, well, that's pretty good for them probably. So, again, it's not because it's a great company. It's just because news related. That's what this is, and a lot of people are expecting this, okay? So keep that in mind when you're looking at this one. Good luck on your contracts. Now, next question says, where do you see NVIDIA, Tesla, and other Mag 7 stocks going from here? I'm going to do a lot more of this on Monday, but I'll keep it simple. Like we said, if NVIDIA gets above the 50 and the 100, it can go into that gap. I would have thought it would maybe fill it, but it did not. Friday was a very slow day. But when you look at it, again, where do I expect it to go? It's running to the golden pocket, so this is. But when you look at it, it did run into the golden pocket. That's normal to slow down right here. Maybe come back down, retest the 150. But I expect this gap to be filled unless some news or something comes out in the market and it just wants to sell down or something. But it really just needs to hold that 135, which is where the moving averages are at. and then you're going to 140, 142 somewhere, and I expect that descending trend line to be resistance, okay? Now, Tesla, this one right here, you're seeing what was support turn into resistance now, and that's that area we talked about. We're going to keep it in place right there around the 360 area, and so it came up, got rejected right off of that, sold back down. NVIDIA was actually going, so here we are again with NVIDIA green, Tesla red. But the question is, is this going to be just one of those lower highs again? Is that what's going to happen? That's what we got to look for, okay, when you're looking at this one right here. And if so, then of course we'll head back down and we'll see if it can hold the 100 or not. All right, so you're looking at, again, that 340 area for support if it decides to come back down, which is where the 100's at. And if it breaks up that trend line right there, which is actually all the way up to like 374, 375, can be in play. But again, we'll talk about that more in Monday's video. Now, next question says, I'm somewhat of a new investor, 7-8 years in the market. I'm not sure how long you have been in, but are the markets historically affected by news to this degree as they have been over the past 4 to 5 years? I don't remember a time where the market moves so violently on every blank piece of news. Trump tweet, all that fun stuff. Am I just a rookie in the markets or something else going on? And no, you're not crazy. And it doesn't matter if you knew or not. The reason why is, when did social media start to blast off? When do we start getting Twitter and TikTok and Facebook and everybody on their phones and everything's blowing up and get the bots that are running them now? And then the algos took over the market. Probably, really 4 to 5 years ago when you had this big blow up after 2020, everybody's on it. Everybody's got bots running them. I mean, as soon as something comes out, boom, it's all over the place. And algos are reacting off of it and stuff. So, no, I mean, that's what's causing it. And so, no surprise there. But no, I mean, 2012 or whatever, and of course not. I mean, I don't even know if Twitter and all of them were even around. I know Facebook was, but I don't know if any of the rest of those were around. I don't do social media anyway. But, yeah, that's what's causing it. And then the algos on top of it running it based off that, right? Having keywords and things like that. So, nope, you're not crazy at all. So, not one bit. Now, next one here says, what's crazy is I forget which ETF I looked at, but the top 4 or 5 stocks were just a couple tenths over 50% of the whole ETF. I just don't understand it. I mean, I guess there's some diversification in there just in case those top 5 or the Mag 7 sell off a little bit. But in that case, why not invest directly into the stocks? This whole blank market's been carried by this Mag 7, for what, 2 years now? I don't know, just crazy. And yeah, we've talked about this repeatedly, right? I've showed you the SPY and the QQQ and the VOO and the Vanguard ETFs and all that fun stuff. And there's a reason why everybody goes, why does Apple keep going up? Because it's like number 1 or number 2 in almost all the major ETFs. And I'll tell you something else. Think about this much. Think about pension funds alone. I was reading some data on this today, researching this for you. It's like globally, I think there's $48 trillion in pension funds. The U.S., Japan, and Canada make up the top 3, which makes up 76% of that $46 trillion. And they're buying what? They're buying SPY and Qs and all these different ETFs, things like that, right? These indexes. And so when you look at that, that's a lot of money, right? And so when they buy those, what are those ETFs and all this other stuff buying? They're buying Apple, NVIDIA, all these other stocks, especially like Apple though, right? Because it's always in the top 2 of almost all the major ones. That's just pension funds. When you're putting it into your IRA and you're directly in your IRA or something buying, or your 401ks, and you're buying these funds, look into the funds, see what the top stocks are. I'll guarantee you they're probably the same ones. So yeah, you can go out and do it, but let's be real about it now. I showed you 2025, and when you look, not all are made up the same, right? Like Meta has been the top winner by a country mile of all the Mag 7. Meanwhile, Tesla's all over the place. NVIDIA will probably rise, but it's been on the downslide, right? Microsoft's been doing nothing, okay? And so they're not all the same. So you got to make sure you're careful which ones you go into. But Apple is just the safest. I mean, Warren Buffett cut his stuff in like half, and he still got a $97 million dividend check the other day, or his company did, even with just a half the position. So, they got their tricks, and that's, of course, they buy back a lot of stock, and they're still a safe haven, even though the growth is garbage. It's terrible, right, compared to the other Mag 7, but there it is. And so, yeah, no surprise there. And eventually that'll change. It always changes. At least every 10 to 20 years, I showed in a video that they change. You look at 07, what the top 10 were, they sure weren't even close to what they are today. All right, so just keep that in mind. Now, last one here says, why did Elon hire programmers to do an audit? Accountants do audits. Seems like he has an alternative agenda. And honestly, there's a whole lot of stuff. People are upset about that. And me, look, I'm fine. I've been saying to cut the budget, that's fine. I know we have a lot of wasteful spending, a lot of fraud, okay? And the truth is, you'll never know the truth about what they found because you have to have a certain government clearance to even see that stuff. So it ain't like they can take snapshots of what they're cutting or stop paying and send it out to us. That's not how it works. The way you'll know if they're actually doing that stuff is through lawsuits, which have already been filed right now. But the reason why I did that is because I guarantee you they're running some kind of algorithm programs to sift through that stuff to make it easier. Because can you imagine how many payments are made through the Treasury system? Now do I like the fact some 19 to 25-year-olds know everything about me, my checking account numbers, and I hope to God they're not downloading stuff, but everything, right? So if they get hacked, we all get hacked. That kind of sucks, right? But it is what it is. I can't stop it, But and again, you'll know what I don't like about it is I hate both parties equally. I don't like the two-party system anyway. Elon's not even part of a real party anyway. He just kind of bounces like Trump, right, back and forth. But when you look, all the stuff coming out right now is about leftist type stuff, leftist leaning type stuff. If you don't hear anything about the right because they're just as corrupt, then I'm going to guarantee you that's when you know it's been weaponized, and that's just the truth. I mean, because my grandpa always said the truth, and I believe this, lies somewhere in the middle. Don't lie over here, and don't lie over here. It's somewhere in the middle. And so if you don't hear stuff coming out about this side, then you know it's just being weaponized. That's the way it is. And we'll see if the budget gets cut. Again, they can't prove it to you because they can't even show you what the heck they're doing. But again, and they're not really, they say an audit, it's not like they're going through and starting to sift through. They're literally just going, not accounting literally gets detailed, right? He's like, where's this? Debits, credits, but they're not doing that. They're just going, who's that payment going to? Nope, cut that, supposedly. So it's not that kind of audit you're thinking of. So that's why they don't need the accountants. They're not doing forensic accounting. They're just going, who is that? Nope, gone. And so that's what kind of sucks. Is there literally is no kind of transparency to it. There can't be. I don't know how you're going to transparent something that the public can't even have no access to. Matter of fact, they're not even supposed to have access to it supposedly. So, we'll see. It's always a fun time. Again, like I said, we're an experiment, so we're going to see how it works out. That's the way it is. So anyway, hope you got something out of it, guys. Again, we'll do Monday night's video to set up the week. Feel free to put any more questions or, comment on these questions. Let me know what you think about it and stuff. I always enjoy reading your opinion. Please hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. Think about signing up for the membership. Less than McDonald's combo, and I will see you guys on Monday.